It's 9:55 a.m., August 5th, and I just finished my first book for the month, being How the States Got Their Shapes by Mark Stein. Now, this book was really enjoyable to read because I'm a huge nerd, and it was fun to learn about how human mistakes or just natural geography would contribute to the borders, how most of the states, I'd say probably the majority of states, were created with slavery in mind, either having it in the state or not having it. I was surprised to find out how many little wars were had over the state borders. There's multiple. My favorite story was probably about Nevada, how nobody really lived there because it's freaking desert, but then a lot of silver and gold was found there, and the government actually would increase its borders every time they found some gold or silver because they didn't want Utah to gain control of those resources, because Congress was afraid of the Mormons and what they might do if they got all those riches. On a structural note, it was a little bit frustrating to read it just because of the nature of the book. It was really repetitive. For example, I read in the Connecticut section about how Connecticut's colonial charter had its boundaries extending to the Pacific Ocean, which was a problem later when the government tried to create other states in that area, and Connecticut had issues with New York and Massachusetts and Pennsylvania and even Ohio, which they don't even touch. And that was really interesting. It was crazy to see how Connecticut sent their freaking militia to Ohio to go try to gain control of this land they had claim over. But then I read about that again in the Massachusetts section, and again in the Ohio section, and again in the Pennsylvania section. It was a little bit tedious to read. I admit I did slow down in my reading as it went along because I'd already heard a lot of the information. This book was kind of adapted into a TV show on the History Channel, and I think that format would actually work a lot better, keep my interest more, because you could focus on multiple states at one time. And also I think the TV show includes stuff about the culture and the history and kind of the metaphorical shapes of the states. So that's something that I really want to look into. So if you're really interested in border disputes and surveying errors, I would highly recommend this book. Again, How the States Got Their Shapes. But if not, maybe just look into the TV show. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, August 9th, and I just finished my next book for the month, being Marry Him by Lori Gottlieb. I read the backs of books a lot at work. It looked really interesting, and so I decided to check it out. Simply put, the premise is about this journalist who had been looking for a husband but never always ended up breaking up with her boyfriends, or for one reason or another, ended up having a kid through artificial insemination in her late 30s, and then in her early 40s decided to do some research into why she and a lot of other intelligent, successful, talented women also had these struggles dating, especially in their late 30s, early 40s. It draws a lot on sociology, which I love, psychology, all these different things that go into the dating world and eventually into marriage. It was super, super interesting just looking at all these conceptions that we have as a culture in dating. I will say I don't think I was the target audience, not because of my age, because she does talk about how these are important things that young women need to know so they don't get to the point that she was at, but because I actually already share a lot of the sentiments that she eventually came to. It's important for you to be friends with your spouse before you even start dating, perhaps, and how if you're looking to get married, you should be looking to date someone who will be a good husband, not necessarily a good boyfriend. I'll probably make a whole video about my feelings on this, not with the book, but just my own personal feelings. But I would highly recommend this book to all single women, just people. It's really, really interesting and really funny. Probably my favorite thing about reading this book was I watched Bachelor, Bachelorette, all of that stuff. Hashtag judgment free zone. And I could totally see the women that she talks about in this book, including herself, and their attitudes towards love and marriage and the ideal man, and seeing how those play out like word for word. And like, for example, the episode of Bachelor in Paradise I watched tonight, like straight out of the book. It's hilarious and a little scary, but hey, what can you do? It is 1:05 a.m. August 12th, and I just finished my next book for the month, or I'm gonna say it's a book. It's a collection of Miss Marvel comics, specifically the fourth one, Last Days. And I have just been so impressed with Miss Marvel. The writing is amazing. G. Willow Wilson, she gets what it's like to be a teenager. Kamala's dialogue is so natural feeling to what teenagers sound like today, without being pandering. Something that's done really well in all of the Miss Marvel comics, but in this collection especially, I think, is incorporating the faith. As you all probably know, Kamala is the first Muslim superhero to lead her own comic, and what I love about it is that Kamala is not very devout. She's not super religious, unlike her brother, who is very devout, makes religion a huge part of his life. But what I love is that the story doesn't shame either of them. This really came into play in this one. I loved it. It was so beautiful, where he's talking about how his religion doesn't interfere with his love for his sister, and all the rules and practices that he abides by have no bearing on the way that he treats and respects his sister. That's just something born out of his love for her and out of his respect and love for Allah. It's just so good. I love it so much. My other favorite moment in this story, so many feels in this collection. It's when Kamala, she's teamed up with Captain Marvel at this point, who is super cool. I know basically nothing about Captain Marvel. She's up on my list for the next comics I have to read, right along with Hawkeye. Suggestions for other comics I should read? But she's teamed up with Captain Marvel, and it's one of those classic things where a superhero has both the external chaos and also a corresponding internal conflict, and it's so well done. And again, so true to like the teenage aspect of Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel come across this abandoned litter of kittens, and Kamala really wants to save them, really wants to take them with her. And Captain Marvel tells her that they have bigger fish to fry and they can't save everyone. And it really gets to Kamala, and it really got to me. But Captain Marvel takes her into her arms and says she understands this need to save everyone, how it's something just so internal to them, not even because they're superheroes, because they have powers, but just because of who they are. I know that's a classic superhero thing, but just imagining feeling helpless, not only to stop the huge apocalyptic crap that's going on, but not even being able to save a few kittens. I honestly teared up. I can't say anything else besides I love Miss Marvel. They're so good. They just get me. Really, really quick. I know I take forever on these reviews. I take a really long time to say not a lot of stuff. Hopefully this project will help me improve over the month. I can't really say too much about this without totally spoiling it. The ending was superb. Not a cliffhanger per se, but just leaving the possibilities open. A lot of character work. Oh my gosh, character is so important to me, and all of these characters are just so well done. They're taken care of, they're treated with respect, they're given complex actions and stories that they each personally want to tell about the kind of person they are. Just read Miss Marvel. Just read it. Just read it. So good. So good. It's 9:05, August 24th, and this next book, and by book I mean comic collection, It's the 5th Miss Marvel collection called Super Famous. Currently the last collection that is out, and I have no idea how I'm gonna make it to the next one. The next one doesn't come out until December, and I'm gonna die. Somehow I will survive without Miss Marvel for the next 4 months. It's fine. If you've been watching this video at all, which it's fine, I know you probably just skipped through it, then you can guess that I loved this. I loved this collection so much. I loved it as much as I've loved all the others. I really just need to make an entirely separate video about Miss Marvel, reread them all, and take actual notes. I ended up having about 15 minutes of footage talking about the last collection when I was recording that, just going off the top of my head, my thoughts. Currently in my editing process, I've pared that down to about 6 minutes. I'm really trying to get it down, but I just love it too much. So for this one, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to do kind of a speed review. I wrote down notes of exactly the things I want to mention, and I'm going to try to fit as much as I can into 60 seconds. So here we go. Okay, this is my 4th time trying to do this. It's hard for me to talk so fast and not stop and pause and add in all these filler words that I'm used to just in my normal speech, but I'm going to try to do it. Try to get everything in. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. So this collection was a lot lighter than the last one, but it still tackled deep issues like Miss Marvel does, always. This one talked about gentrification, privacy rights of public figures, and mixed race marriage, like just for some of the things that it talked about. Very cool. But also, like I said, it was lighter, and this was the first time that I laughed out loud in a Miss Marvel comic, which was really fun. It's been difficult for me to get used to different artists and working on the same comic, but this one had 4 within this collection, and it kind of forced me to accept those different styles next to each other. Mike, new character, she's amazing, basically my new GF. I just really want her to have a happy ending. I'm a little concerned because she's in a love triangle, but fingers crossed. Captain Marvel showed up, dropped some more truth bombs. I love her. Also, a lot of the Avengers were in it. We had a lot of Iron Man in this one. Classic Tony Stark stuff, which was so fun to see. But also, he was like really sensitive. I think he was trying to, deal with a teenage girl, and it was nice to see that side of him. That's a little more like kind, and that's it. Like I've said in a million times this video, Miss Marvel is just so good. You can definitely expect a whole separate video in the next few months. Sorry that this video is literally 2/3 Miss Marvel. Ooh. It's 11:35 p.m. August 31st, and I didn't finish another book. I did not reach my goal of reading 5 books this month. I fell short at 4, but that's alright. 4 is probably more than I would have read without this challenge or anything motivating myself to read a little more, which is a little sad since I love reading, but that's alright. We're just gonna stay positive. This is a step back in the right direction, and it's not like I didn't try to read 5 books. I didn't try very hard, but I did try. There were 3 books I started this month but didn't finish any of them, one being The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, a super influential book in my mom's life. She got me this copy, but the style was a little jarring for me. It's all written in 2nd person. I don't know, just something that I've got to get used to. I started Wolf in White Van by John Darnielle. I'm not sure if you can read it, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful cover. It's a beautifully written book, but it's one of those books where the sentences are so long and the metaphors are so unusual that you kind of have to stop every few paragraphs to kind of think about what is he actually saying? What does this mean? So it's a really gorgeous book. Obviously, I wasn't able to finish it. And I also started this book, Ella Minnow P, by Mark Dunn. This was recommended to me by my sister's friend, so thank you, Rachel. Super interesting premise. One of the most intriguing and exciting premises I've heard about in a really long time. It's about this small community where they gradually outlaw all the letters in the alphabet. It's an epistolary novel, and each time one of the letters is outlawed, the characters writing these letters back and forth in the book, they stop using those letters of the alphabet. Super fascinating to someone like me who loves words and letters and just their creative usage so much. But again, I don't know if it was something about the style. I'm not sure what I was expecting. I think it was just slow going, and once I get more into it, and as it gets harder and harder to function without all these letters, it'll probably be a faster read for me. So this definitely wasn't a failure. I had a lot of fun reading these books, doing the reviews, even though they suck. I think I'm gonna try to do more videos like this, maybe just when I read a book that I especially love, or maybe I'll do a compilation for like every few months. I don't know. The possibilities are endless. Let me know what you guys think, and really if any of y'all have suggestions, would like to do a challenge with me, collaborate a little bit on this, I would love that. Hope you all had a happy August, and good night.